My name's George Wylde and you're listening to The Journey Podcast, a show where we discuss how health and fitness has not only helped my own life, but how it's impacted the lives of others through diversity and how it's helped others gain success. Welcome back, and you're listening to The Journey Podcast with myself, George Wylde. Today we have guest Lauren Quirk on the show, where we're going to discuss again, like always, the purpose of the show is to divulge into people's history regarding fitness and kind of where they are and how it's applied to their life and where we are today. So today's show, we will work with Lauren Quirk and simply want to start the show off first and foremost with kind of your first memories of fitness and how you found yourself getting into the fitness industry.
I think for me, first memory I have is, I don't know, probably going back 5-6 years ago, going to the gym after school. I worked at a gym at the weekends, just doing weekend shifts, and then I just sort of started going from there really, but it wasn't anything really serious. It was probably doing half an hour on every cardio machine that I could get on. And then going upstairs to the vending machine, getting a Lucozade and a protein cookie, and then going home and then eating a pizza for tea, and then just doing that every other day. So yeah, that's my first memory. I probably didn't really get seriously into fitness, shall we say, probably for another 3 years after that maybe. But I've always sort of gone to the gym really.
And why do you think you got into fitness, other than working in the gym and in the gym environment? Did that kind of entail you in, or is it why do you think you then took it a bit more seriously, as you said?
I think it started off for me, well, what I mentioned before, when I started, I was in sixth form probably. And then typical education path, you go to sixth form and you go to uni. My uni experience was more of a bit like a 6-month holiday, shall we say, to Liverpool. And I didn't really have a good experience at uni, shall we say. That is probably a story for another time. But my way of coping with not having a nice time at uni was eating. And when I say eating, I don't mean getting a takeaway every night. I mean, I was going to Tesco, doing my usual shop like a normal uni student, but buying your essentials, your pastas, your rices, but I was eating a bolognese with a full garlic baguette to myself every single night, or 3 naan breads every single night. And I put on quite a lot of weight, I think. Some people, when I say it now, to some people, they're like, oh, no, you didn't. I didn't notice it. But I think it's a bit different. You feel it in yourself. None of my clothes fit. I wasn't very comfortable. And I did look a lot different when I came back. So I think for me, then me and you were obviously together at the time. And I just started going to the gym when I came back because I didn't have a job. So in the day I was going to the gym and I was I really need to sort of get my life back together, shall we say.
You didn't feel comfortable with how you looked and how you felt. People, of course, are going to tell you otherwise, which is fine. And again, it's been polite. But I think how you feel it is relative to you. Regardless of on the outside what you look like, in terms of size, you weren't comfortable, you weren't happy with how you looked, so then therefore you took action. I think that's a really important takeaway for people who, it's just understanding other people's aspects on life. I've been in positions where, I've been almost ready for stage and I wasn't happy, but people are quick to shoot you down and say, you look great, you look this, you look that, but it doesn't matter. Ultimately, I believe that kind of going into any fitness journey always starts, what it has for myself and by the sounds of it for you, is it's come from within.
Yeah. It's
coming from where you want to be and ultimately your kind of happiness and kind of your feel, which is really good to hear, because I think people don't understand that. They'll look at you to this day or where you were and not understand why you felt pressured or wanting to kind of get into the journey quite quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know what? I think because me and you have both been in that position in terms of we both haven't felt great and it's caused us to take action. I definitely think for me now, if I'm speaking to someone and they're telling me that, oh, I just don't feel nice, obviously I will say oh no, you do if yeah, you know what I mean.
You're not going to fly in.
I'm not going to fly in and be like, oh no, you look bloody awful.
You're right. You look terrible. Yeah.
But like I hate saying this, but like I do understand like when they say like I don't feel great. So I will say, no, I get it. I've been there. Like I can tell someone till I'm blue in the face how good I think they look. But like if they don't feel good in themselves, and that's just like generic as well. It's like can be little as like going out for dinner or like going out for coffee or something. Like if you don't feel good, like you're not gonna.
It doesn't matter. It's how you feel. Yeah, it could be something so simple. And I think what's good as well is obviously I've been through a certain stage. When you start to tell me these kind of things, then I again, like yourself, completely understood. So therefore, okay, as the doting boyfriend, I should turn around and say, oh, you're beautiful, you're nice. I meant that, and that's true. But I also understood. So therefore, I wouldn't be in a position to tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because I knew. And I've been there, and I think it's really important. I think that's where, I mean, we've had more questions about sort of relationships within the industry or fitness in itself, and we'll talk about that later. But I think having an understanding from both sides is really, really important. So again, I can relate to the things that you say. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm there to support, but I can't tell you. I could tell you till you're blue in the face is what I'm trying to say, and I think this is something that people need to understand: is if that person isn't happy, in the opinions, in the experience that I've had with certain people, then you need to just respect that, understand it, and then help through, rather than kind of ignoring it and being ignorant towards someone else's problems. So
yeah, I think it's a difference of as well, like people aren't saying it to be like attention seeking or searching for compliments. Like if someone doesn't feel good, they genuinely don't feel good, and it's just about like helping them through that. Like if someone wants to try and better themselves because they don't feel good, just let them crack on.
100%. And like you did, and I witnessed, you didn't moan and mope, you took action and moved forward, and that's kind of in your character from what I know. And which is a huge thing, is again just taking action and moving forward. So like obviously we've gone from going to the gym after school, doing some cardio, using the glute band, which I witnessed for hours, but said nothing obviously, to then going home with protein cookies and pizza. So obviously then things have transitioned, things become more serious. Talk us through how that kind of took place. What did you see? What inspired you to kind of make the changes, and what did you see, and how did you learn along the way to kind of get there? And I mean, like again, you've gone from a level, and you're not gone from A to Z. The transitions through for people who are possibly in the position that you were starting out, it'd be interesting to know, what was your next point of call? What did you see, and what was the initial changes?
Well, when I got back and I started going to the gym, I will hold my hands up and say, like, I didn't follow any like plan or anything like that. I literally just went into the gym. I bettered how I ate. So I didn't restrict or anything like that. I just ate like smoothie bowls and like salads for tea and stuff like that. And then I was obviously moving more and eating better, and I was fitting into my clothes again, and my skin was better. I felt better. And I think I'd done that for, it must have been about like 6 months maybe. And yeah, I did see a change in how I looked. And then I actually remember it was like, I think we'd gone for dinner, it was New Year's Eve or something like that. And I purchased like an Instagrammer's, what do you call them? Like
influencer.
Like, yeah, but like a program.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like a 12-week like booty program, shall we say? And that was probably the first step for me where I started following a plan, shall we say? Again, not like following any type of like eating or anything like that. I was still eating the same type of thing, just like balanced, but I was just going into the gym with like a structure. And for me, like, I love routine. I always have, and I like knowing what going in and knowing what I'm doing. So for me, following this sort of plan, I did start to see like changes that I hadn't seen before. Like my legs looked different, my legs looked more toned, my stomach looked different, and I liked what I was seeing. And I think then I started following more people on Instagram, like Gymshark models and my protein models and stuff like that. And I think it was after that, the 12 weeks or however long it was up. And then I think that's when you started coaching me, because I don't even know if many people know that you've used to coach me, really.
Once upon a time.
Yeah, once upon a time.
I was braver.
Yeah, yeah. The only time. Tell me what to do.
Tell you what to do. I took advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's when me and you sat down, and I think I came to you and I was like, what do you think about me maybe doing a photo shoot? And still now, probably, if I didn't have the coach I have now, I probably would only trust you to like coach me. Like, I know that like you know what you're doing, and I know that you have my best interests at heart as well. So yeah, for me it was then a matter of approaching you, and you took the rails from there, shall we say.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it was, for sure. And I think obviously transitioning from kind of getting back into a position where we talked about, obviously you weren't happy, but did you feel I digress as a professional digressor, but I experienced a lot of what I do within my job. Did you feel, obviously coming back and you weren't happy, other than your internal unhappiness, that there was a pressure as a young female to kind of act and perform a certain way or look a certain way kind of going to the gym?
Yeah, I guess so. It was sort of like a look everyone wants to go for when they start the gym. They want a small stomach and they want a big bum. Like, that is what it is. So it was a pressure to do a certain thing. Like, I wasn't going into the gym and I wasn't going on the chest press machine. Let's say that.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's good. It's like, again, it's something that I deal with on a daily basis, that people come to me with these questions. It's just interesting to get an insight how you felt, and obviously then we spoke about how you've actioned, which is great. And we'll go back to kind of what we were speaking about then. So obviously you came on board, we had a look at some of your food, and I remember when we first met, your diet was one meal a day, and it was probably a Chinese or a pizza. But then what was your thoughts? And then going to, obviously we structured a meal plan, but again, you were the best client I've ever had in terms of your ability to adhere. You enjoyed structure, you enjoyed routine. It was a case of just channeling what you did and obviously punish them. And then when you started to then see and gain results, it's very, very easy to then pursue and trust what's going on. So I mean, again, for people who don't, young girls especially, or whoever is trying to kind of get into shape, when I provided you with a meal plan that was, say, maybe 5 meals deep compared to what you were initially doing, how was that transition in terms of lifestyle change? And, was it easy enough to kind of uphold? Or I appreciate I'd always done it in the background. And obviously then you sort of witnessed what I was doing. We then sat down and discussed what we thought you should do for the best. Yeah.
It was daunting. Like, it is daunting. And I think some people think that, like me, we don't understand that. Like, when George first gave me my diet plan, we obviously sat down and we spoke about the foods I like and like what type of thing I want to have in there. But like, at first for me, going from to like George kindly exposed me to, shall we say, having a lovely nutritious diet prior. 5 meals a day to me was unheard of. How anyone could eat 5 meals a day, I was like, what? How am I going to do this? Like,
from the initial Capri Sun and
from the Capri Sun and a Domino's to cashews and a protein shake as my snacks was like, what am I going to do? But I've always taken the thing of, well, I want to do this, so let's just do it. And I think people underestimate as well how quickly you do adjust to it. I think at first I was like, gosh, this is too much. This is so different. But like, I am no way over exaggerating. I must say like 4 or 5 days at most. And like, it is what it is. It's just, that's what I do now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think obviously I went through, when we first met, I kind of went through my very first prep myself. You kind of dealt with the back end of that. I listened to a lot of people who would then kind of like, other halves will run through a certain process as well to kind of get an idea of what it feels like, to kind of understanding. From my perspective, is that something that you thought, obviously you had your own goals, and you always have your own goals, but did you see kind of what I was doing and think, why is he acting the way he is?
Yeah.
Why is he so strange? Why is he not speaking to me?
Yeah, I actually did, to be fair, going towards, because it was just a photo shoot that me and George done together. So George, speaking about you like you're not there, like we've done together. It's obviously a lot different to a comp prep, and but for sure it 100% made me like gain an understanding of what the type of structure that you went through.
And it's been horrible. But just going further, because people have asked questions about sort of this year, obviously, we've prepped separately. You're obviously going to shows I haven't. The year before we have, and again, running through that has kind of allowed you to get an understanding of kind of what I was going through. Then also on the flip side of that, so we got a couple of questions about, you know, what's it like to kind of be in the industry together. I've been both with and without, and you know, and we can both understand each other's needs in terms of potential selfishness. Obviously, there's no, if things are a bit quieter or you need a bit more time to yourself, it's kind of understanding that. And I think that played a huge role, just even doing that first photo shoot. And like you say, it's just, but I think for you more so, it's kind of, again, listening to your story now, not that I don't know you, but it's kind of like, it's been your own path and then sort of taking things. You've always been a person that I've known that's leveled up your sort of, your goals as it is anyway, which I think is great. So then obviously from there, we then moved on. I wasn't as brave, and I thought it was best. I'll talk a little bit for that. But obviously, I competed a couple of years in a row. Met a few people, and I knew Meg, who you now work with. So I remember having the conversation. I remember messaging Lauren. It was someone that she'd seen on Instagram. I said, "Oh, I'm with Meg." Anyway, we spoke, and then obviously passing the details. I pushed Lauren obviously because I knew how intense she was in terms of unstructured and discipline, and I knew how good she'd be under some slight better guidance and unbiased guidance. I think there's probably.
But also, I think this is completely like my fault and not George's. Like, we done the first diet together, and it was really good, really successful. We were really happy with like how we looked for the first shoot, and then like any good coach would, like we reversed out, and I just didn't listen. Like, it was just me. Like, I just didn't listen. And I definitely don't think I like went off the rails in terms of like, I didn't listen to what he was saying. I just, at first George was upping my food and I didn't want to up my food. And it was just sort of a bit like, well, I'm just wasting your time really, because like, I wasn't really listening. I kind of just wanted a little bit of like a normality back. And then this is me going off topic again. And then I actually did get to a position where I was a little bit uncomfortable again. Like, I found myself not in the exact same position as I was, but I did end up getting very uncomfortable in myself again. And then luckily that leads into then you met Meg, and
come at a good time.
It came at the right time, I think.
I think also for anyone who else is out there, and we know people do, we've got friends who do coach their partners that coming out in the reverse phase. Again, on my initial podcast I spoke about, I didn't go through that phase, and a couple of times, I think I did 3 years in a row, where I actually rebounded quite poorly. Again, understanding that the uncomfortableness of, again, so I was initially uncomfortable where I was, got to a certain, and then when you've been at a level of extremeness in terms of whether it be a photo shoot or comp prep, to then go even slightly above that becomes uncomfortable. The new norm for us now, and kind of like being in, you know, see our sort of what would you call it, body
perception.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's difficult. And then when it's understanding though, when you're going through that phase and you don't want to do certain things, it's then having the managing the fact that we're still together romantically. So when there's a little bit of backlash, I'm not going to tell you can't do stuff.
Yeah,
I'll give you all the advice in the world, and we know that, but like, I'm not going to turn around to your boyfriend and demand you eat a certain thing, or you ban you from eating this. It becomes difficult. So I think, like you say, it's my job to support. I've been through it all. I understood it. I was trying to, you know, help and pre-warn, but to the point where I definitely had limits that I could push in on, and I would with anyone. And I think, yeah, for sure I think it just came at the perfect time we had that conversation, and that scene you then, the pressure was off us, and it allowed you to kind of just free run on again. But I think for me, I don't know about yourself, I got to a point where I was so uncomfortable that I was hungry and driven to go again. And I think it just came at a very good time.
Yeah. Because I think for me as well, it was probably a little bit embarrassment from my end, where I didn't want to admit to you maybe that like I wasn't doing what you were telling me to do, and like I didn't want to do it, and like I wasn't really following it. So for me, it was probably a little bit of embarrassment as well. So like you said, it's difficult because having that client coaching relationship, but then like, where does the, like, not that the line like were ever like blurred or anything, but it's like, it is a hard balance when
going out for dinner and asking you why haven't you done your check-in?
yeah, why is my check-in 5 minutes late?
No,
why am I having an extra fry?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, counting the macros of your meal on a date night. But it's true, and I think, you know, again, credit to those guys who do. We've done it. But I think for both of us, in terms of, because again, we both then following year actually prepped together. I think it was nice to have that time away, because as you know, minds can get a little bit frayed when we're going to the back end of a comp prep. But so then obviously your first sort of prep with Meg was great. I took a back seat and watched, and you were under incredible guidance, and it was really good to watch you then take another level. But I think you did another photo shoot.
Yeah. So the year after, me and Meg done another photo shoot after that. But you were prepping at the same time actually. So we were both going through a like diet phase together, shall we say? And then I timed my photo shoot. I think it was like a week before we went to your show. So if anything, that was really, really good. It was really good to get like another, it was like the same sort of like techniques and stuff. It wasn't anything I wasn't used to, but it was just like a different approach. Like someone else was taking like handle of it. But coming out of the back of that diet phase was probably like the best one I've had so far, in terms of my stance of it was I finished a week before you, but I also didn't want to go and enjoy a meal on my own. So I think I knew for well that you would be finishing the week after. So I was like, well, I'll just hold off for a week and we can enjoy some food together. So coming off the back of that, my food was obviously increased when I finished my photo shoot. But like I was sticking to my food, but subconsciously, like it was, I think because you were still doing it, like it made me just do it as well. So that was two very different like reverses, shall we say. But yeah.
But to put into perspective for people listening or watching, is that this is probably 3 years in.
Well, yeah, it will be, yeah.
So I feel like people come to me and they want results thick and fast, but Lauren's at this point still learning.
Yeah.
You've made a lot of mistakes, and this is something that I'm big on. I think mistakes are actually an incredible thing to do, because you were learning. So we're only 3 years in and you're still learning lessons. And look, we're going to learn many more, but just to put into perspective as to where Lauren is today, and we'll go through that, we'll get to that point when we do, but this is 3 years in, there's still a lot of mistakes being made and a lot of lessons learned and a lot of emotions being played on.
Yeah.
And heartbreak and dislike for, but it's important to understand the reality. What we're trying to get across here is the reality of it all.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll touch on like the preps and stuff like later on and stuff, but like it, like you said, it's still a massive like learning thing for me now. And at this moment in time, we're probably like 5-6 years in now.
Yeah, together for sure.
Together, so.
Yeah. I'm probably 7 or 8, but so that brings us on to the next point, where it is something that, we're here to talk about you, but relationships within the sport, relationships within competing, relationships in general. So obviously that first prep we then did, I know yours was a photo shoot, but we prepped alongside that. Imagine I'm not here. What was it like being in a relationship? It's hard, I know, but what was that first kind of experience for you, kind of running through a relationship with someone competing or prepping together, so to speak?
What? So when you were doing it and I wasn't?
We both were. You
were
prepping for the shoot.
For the shoot.
So that was the first time. We've kind of gone back to that point, but that was the first time that we kind of coincide. Preps. I'm not here.
Well, no. I don't really remember that one ever being too difficult, to be honest. Like I think it was difficult because you were doing PCA at the time, and the way PCA used to work was that you would go and do your qualifier, and then you would go and do the finals. But the finals was always like a few weeks. I don't think it was ever difficult, but like when we were both doing it. But I think it was hard those last 4 weeks, like after your qualifier. Like we've obviously both enjoyed some food. I'd finished my dieting phase, shall we say, and I was back on the up, and you were still like digging for more condition to go into the finals, understandably. And yeah, I feel like that bit was probably quite hard in terms of you. I always say, like, if we speak about it now, I say like George was there, but like you weren't really there at the same time.
I wasn't present.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with you, and I don't know, you were staring into space. So like as like a partner that is, one, difficult to watch, and then also two, like, not in a bad way, but it is like, it's hurtful, because I think you can choose to take it quite personally, and because we were still probably only quite, like, I say early on, like 2 years in, like, it is still early on, and I think for me, I took it quite personally. I was like, oh, he doesn't want to speak to me, or he doesn't want to do anything with me, but like, it's not that at all. I think until you go through a dieting phase, or you see what someone goes through to go through a dieting phase, you don't really, or the back end of a comp prep, shall we say, you don't realise how someone is feeling, and they don't mean it. They probably don't realise they're doing it either. So yeah, I do think for me that bit was quite hard.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we spoke about this before, that, you know, that's why I think you going through your own journey and understanding, because at times I'm sure you wanted to be away and kind of on your own, away from me, that none of it is personal. I know, obviously, we both know that where I kind of go and prep,
yeah,
it's obviously, it means a lot to me. I throw myself deep in. It's an incredibly selfish sport. And again, for anyone who is thinking of getting into it, you know, and it is an incredibly selfish sport, especially for someone. I'm not saying that I take it more serious than anyone else, or Lauren does, but we take it very, very seriously. And having that someone there, I know from my perspective, to support that, it is huge.
Yeah, but I think you have to take it seriously. Like, it's not cheap, and like, to get to the level of lean that you have to get on stage, like, you have to give 100%. You really can't afford to take your foot off the gas any time at all, really.
And I think then from there, obviously we then go into, you then take things to another level. So what made you take the leap? What made you put on the high heels? What made you put on the bikini?
It's funny actually, because I remember going to like your shows with you, and I remember people actually asking me, oh, would you ever do it? And I always said, no, I'd never do it. Like, it's George's thing, it's not mine. Like, at this point, I still like going out every weekend, and I like a drink, and I like go and get a chip, cheese and gravy on the way home at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Me driving.
George driving.
On prep.
Yeah. And so lost my train of thought there. I always said that, like, I would never do it. Like, it's George's thing, it's not mine. And I think I was like, oh, I'd never like take that away from him. Like, it's his thing, not mine. And I think in the back end, I was like watching more shows and like seeing like the glitz and the glam, and like seeing stuff on Instagram. And I just thought, well, I've done 2 or 3 dieting phases, and like, now I know I can stick to a diet. I know I can do it. I know I can get into like a lean state. So I, first things first, I was still with Meg, and I still am with Meg. I spoke to Meg at the time, and I just said, what do you think about me competing? Do you think I have, the structure to do it? Do you think I could do it? Do you think I'd be good at it? And she was like, 100%, I think you could do it. I think you'd be ready in time. I think it would be really good. So she was like, look, if you don't want to do it and you get 6 weeks in, you don't like it, no one's forcing you to do it. You can pull out. So I just thought, well, here we go. So yeah, I don't think it was anything. I think you do have to think about it for a while. I think I was thinking about it for a while, but I probably just didn't say anything to anyone, maybe. Or
which is nice. I mean, look, at the time, people would ask me. I was too busy focusing on myself, of course. Yeah. But again, I think the way that we work as well. No, if you wanted to do it, it was fine. There was never any pressure from me to do it, but I would always support. It was if you wanted to jump on board, you can't make someone do it. So when you talk about thinking about it, I think again, I don't want to talk out of turn, but I think people are very, very quick to jump into a show off the bat. Currently, I don't know what you think. I see it far too often. In my opinion. Yeah. And the reason I say that is, like, again, there's no one way to do anything, but if you listen to Lauren's story so far, that she's 3 years in, she's learned a lot of lessons. There's been a couple of photo shoots, and then it took her still then a lot of thought, whether it was worth to go on stage. She spoke to a coach, in depth, had a conversation, spoke to me, and then that was the next step. Because look, again, I had my eyes absolutely. I prepped for years before, and I thought I'd pushed, but I had my eyes open to what a bikini girl's prep looked like. So I'd be interested for you to kind of explain to others the difference now between the photo shoot and the comp prep, and how did it open your eyes?
100. Oh my God, did it open my eyes? Yeah. Well, when I initially had that conversation with Meg, she was like, "Well, okay." So I think I spoke to her in the October. It must have been the October, and the plan was to compete, like 12 months down the line. So again, like planning well in advance. She was like, "We need to push your food up for one, because we're obviously going to have to taper you back down." And I think that is something that people don't realize. Like, you need to be in a position where you are in a good position to diet, because like you said, you got your eyes opened to what a bikini girl's diet looks like, or prep looks like, shall we say. And yeah, so did I. So I think it's important to like read up on what you're about to get yourself into, but like listen to podcasts, speak to people who have done it before, because it really is no easy ride.
So as someone, obviously then you have to go into like an initial push-up phase again to obviously get calories to a level that before you start dieting. So as someone who'd struggled in the past with being a certain weight, feeling uncomfortable at a certain weight, how was that for you? Because I think that's something else that people miss in terms of males. I've been there myself. For me, putting weight on is not a comfortable thing to do. So how was that initial thing to take on board? Now you've done the photo shoots, you looked great, you got the appraisal, you'd seen your pictures back, this was great. To now then push, and this is part of a process of a comp prep. Is not the heels, the glitz and the glamour. It's not all that. There's more to it. How was that for you mentally to deal with, that you were consciously putting on weight, getting to a position where you weren't comfortable?
Yeah. I don't remember the first push-up phase ever being too difficult, to be fair. I don't know how or why it was so different the first time, but I don't remember being in a position where I was uncomfortable. I think the key is we slowly push my food up. So those minor changes of like an extra 50 grams of potato on one meal a week wasn't really making that much of a difference.
Sorry to interrupt. I've been told not to interrupt, but that's the difference then, where Lauren's ability to adhere allowed those changes. Whereas if you're so consistent and so adherent to what you're doing, these minor changes can be built up over a long period of time to a certain level where you're not jumping the gun, you're not throwing in things on top, you're not eating outside of what's supposed to be eaten. Therefore, and again, people miss this point and they'll look at you, for example, peak off season, so why did you get to eat so much food? And it's strategic. Yeah. It's taken time to get there. You've earned your spot to be there almost. Yeah. It's not fair that Lauren eats all this food. Well, it's very, very fair because she has consistently driven and built her way up to that, Yeah. It's like building a house. It's not fair it's there. Well, it is, because you've built from the bottom up. And
and we'll touch on the other off season, but my off season this year was like, honestly, like chalk and cheese to my first off season, shall we say.
Yes, then obviously we went into the prep and then talk about the difference of intensity from photo shoot prep into comp prep.
Yeah, so with the photo shoot prep, like there was, I don't want to say there was flexibility, but there's a lot more room for, I think I had like my grandma's birthday or something in the middle of my prep and my photo shoot prep, and I say, for example, I had like a chicken and pasta meal. Like I vaguely remember going to like pizza and pasta or something and me getting like half pasta, half salad. And like that was allowed. That like there isn't room for like going out and having off-plan meals.
You weren't cheating on your diet.
I wasn't cheating on my diet. Yeah, I was. There is just a little bit more leeway. Yep. Do you agree?
Yeah, that was factored in for sure. And I think the level of condition you need to get to is different. It's not. Yeah. It's not. I don't believe it's worth.
No.
Going to the level of condition for a photo shoot.
It's not, because I think some people look at you when you are like 2 weeks out and they're like, they're either absolutely horrified or they're like, oh my God, like what's going on. But I think it's really, really different when that is you, that is that lean. Like, I'll probably touch on this a little bit later, but like it's really not all it's like cramped up to be or hyped up to be, shall we say.
I find a common correlation with feeling good and looking good don't tend to be
yeah,
the same
thing. Might look good in the bikini, but bloody hell, you don't
feel.
How'd
you feel?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I think that was that first. We had this conversation. So obviously the first prep we went on, we got to the show. I witnessed what was needed in terms of the bikini. And you're not the hardest worker in the room. It's a difficult process to get to the stage.
Yeah.
How then for you was? I asked this question at the time, but I want you to answer it. How was stepping out on that stage for the first time? 'Cause I know my experience on the stage and what I think of being on stage. It'd be interesting to know what your thoughts were as the curtains opened and you strutted out to the centre stage.
Strutted.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I remember being like backstage the first show and like this is just my personal opinion. I listened to I've lost count of the amount of podcasts. I've watched videos like on Instagram, YouTubes of people doing shows and their show day vlogs, and nothing will ever prepare you for your first like show weekend. Like you may know what to expect, but like the thought it is really like overwhelming. And I probably shouldn't say this. I remember being backstage, like lining up to go on stage for the first time. I think it was like the first time as category I'd done our first show, and I remember like the two girls or something in front of me had like gone on, and I watched them do their routine, and I remember standing there thinking, oh my god, I am literally about to like wet myself. Like honestly, I was like, if I don't go to the toilet in the next T-minus 2 seconds, like I honestly might dribble. Like honestly, like it is so nerve-wracking. And my first show, that two-bro show that we done, was like a quite quiet show. So, and the first prep, I threw myself into the deep end. We done 3 shows. So we done like a quiet regional.
Yep.
2 weeks later we done a busier regional, and then we done the first Arnolds.
Yeah,
so I mean slow and steady wins the race, shall we say. But so it was actually quite nice to do the first show as like a quieter regional, just like get a feel for it. But yeah, so I went up and I done it, and I actually can't really remember it because it's so like your adrenaline's going. I'm also trying not to wet myself still, and like you've got all these lights, people looking at you, people like you and like your mom like shouting my name and everything. It's like it is really overwhelming, and then you've also got like a panel of 5 judges staring at you, and you're trying not to fall over. So yeah, but I do remember like coming off, and then when I'd finished, the show had ended quite early actually. It was like 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And then I came back and seen you, and I just remember the first thing you said to me was like, do you love it? And I was like, oh my God, I absolutely love it.
You had some good placings.
Yeah.
First time out.
I think we got second in the juniors.
Yeah,
I think I got second in juniors on my very first show, and then 3rd in my height class. Was it 3rd? 4th in my height class, sorry. Yeah, 4th in my height class for the first show. So that was like amazing. And George, you'd placed in that show as well.
Yeah,
so like, but you were on before me. So, but George, I'd been to watch George's shows before, and he'd always placed anyway. So it was like, I was a bit like, oh well, he's placed. I want a medal.
Not that we're competitive, of course. But no, that was, and again, the question I asked that, and it was, did you enjoy it? No, it's right. It's your podcast, not mine. I've limited the coffee today, so I don't talk over you too much. But I personally, my views on being on stage are totally different to yours. And what I loved was the fact that you loved it. Yeah. For me, I love the training, the diet, the bits, and I go on stage as a byproduct of what we do. But for me, it was lovely to hear that you loved it and the experience you got, and obviously then the sense of fulfillment from the whole prep and as well, and it's great. And then so from there, I don't want to fast track you, but what was the next stage? How was the reverse? So you've gone through mini reverses. I'm not trying to downgrade the photo shoots, but
no, not at all.
What was the first reverse like from a show?
Well, just touching on what you said, actually, I am definitely not like down setting or playing down a photo shoot prep. A photo shoot prep is still hard.
It has to be, because everything's
yeah.
Sure.
I am just saying, like, it is very, very different to a comp prep. Me just trying to procrastinate to talk about my first reverse, show reverse. So the first, off the back of the first two shows, like, it wasn't really like an issue because we had a meal out, we enjoyed some food, and then I knew I was getting back on stage 2 weeks later with no clothes on, so I couldn't really afford
there's pressure.
I couldn't really afford to go mental, shall we say. So they were fine, but there was quite a long gap between the last regional or the second regional and the Arnolds. It was about a 4-week gap, and to hold that level of leanness for that amount of time, I was very, very, very ready to just be done. So I don't really think that helped. We had a little bit of a stress going into the last show, like our travel and stuff, and like stupid stuff, like on the morning of the show my makeup was late, and like we ended up running through the NEC in Birmingham to try and make sure like we got to my top coat of tan on time. Yeah,
Lauren plowed through 4 bodyguards.
Yeah, I don't even think I showed my ticket. God knows what I was going into. But this is a little bit off topic, but like I wasn't happy with my look going into the Arnolds, which is a shame to say. I wasn't happy with it. And again, this sort of briefly touches on what we were saying at the start, really, because people were like, oh, but you placed at the Arnolds and like you looked amazing. So, but I didn't feel good. I know full well that wasn't my best at all. And to be like brutally honest, my body was just very unresponsive towards the end of like that prep. Like, it didn't really matter how much food you took off me, how much extra food you gave me to try and fill me out, how much water you gave me or took away from me. My body was just not responding. And the stress that we had going into that show, we, like, with the travel and stuff like that, I actually put on 2 kilos overnight, the night before the Arnold. So if you're stepping on the scales, and it's not all about scale weight, but if you step on the scales and you're 2 kilos heavier and you know full well you're going on stage the next day with, like, in a bikini, yeah, just imagine, like, you're really not in a good way. So I was very, very ready to be done. But actually answering your question, that first reverse, in my head, I had planned it all to go really well. I'd brought prep meals to after the Arnolds because you were on the day after me. And I always said, like, I didn't want to eat without you. Like, I wanted us, we'd both gone through the prep together. I wanted to enjoy it together. So I actually bought a chicken and rice meal to have afterwards. And I had that, just with a dessert of 4 donuts. So that went down swimmingly.
I hate when they fall in.
Yeah. Yeah, just testing them. So I had that, and then was fine the night of, actually. I think I actually had half a Toby Carvery, like, but not like a massive Toby Carvery, like meat and veg. I, like, was fine. Then went to the Arnolds the next day and it was fine. I brought my meals and everything, and then we went for a really, really nice meal that night. And then we had a few days in Liverpool after the Arnolds. We just went to chill, do some shopping, go to the cinema. Me and Jorge, a little bit kids, shall we say. We like going to the cinema. We like going to play mini golf. So yeah, I was looking forward to that. But I also didn't really, like, expect to feel the way that I did, in terms of, it doesn't matter how much you eat, it doesn't matter how much you drink, you are never, ever, ever going to feel full. So me was eating my normal meals and I was like, well, I'm not full, so I'll just have something else. And your body is so sensitive after any dieting phase that I don't want to say I binged, but I definitely overate.
Do you think that stemmed from potential, again, an issue that a lot of us have is food focus in the build up to that last show? Do you think that's...
Yeah.
I think it's something that I hear all the time, and I get it. So that's why I think obviously the reverse is super important, because food focus is often created where I've done this for a lot longer now. So mindset, and this is a learned habit for me, but towards the back end of the show, I don't know how you felt going into the Arnolds, that rather than thinking about doing the do on the stage, thinking about that meal post show.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about the box of Lindos I'd brought in my suitcase. I was not thinking about...
Which is a shame, isn't it, towards the end, when you worked that hard for 30 weeks total.
30 weeks
more,
it would have
maybe
been.
40, 30, 40.
Yeah.
So that last 2 or 3, 4 days, or there's more obviously in terms of what you think about food, then mindset shifts towards just that meal.
Yeah, but I also think as well, this is purely me, I was also... George is like twice as tall as me, and like I was also trying to eat the same amount of food that he was. Like that is just not good.
So that leads on to my next point. So look, again, I've done it for a lot longer, so therefore I think even in between meals I kind of wasn't as bad. My food focus wasn't as heavily there.
Yeah,
maybe I didn't diet as hard as you did, but I seen what you had to eat versus what I did. But also then when I was going to the meals, my meals were obviously much bigger. And therefore, like you said, we just enjoy food. And I think anyone who says that, well, people don't enjoy food, but like
psychos.
We enjoy food, and that's our thing, and we enjoy time over food.
We are foodies.
We are foodies, and I think it's really common. I think people look at us and think, oh, how do they get it? They don't like food. We love food. There's nothing more than we love than breaking down a TGI's menu, and I don't know how many we've read on the way up to a show, and cinema, popcorn, we love all the above. So like for me, it is a case of I do go and I do enjoy my food, but therefore I just have now learned everything. I'm a believer in habits, and learned habits in between those meals was a little bit better.
Yeah.
So obviously then we were having food challenges. How romantic. Romantic food challenges, dribbling and waddling out of restaurants.
Well, I'll
let you tell the story.
George always like laughed at me for this story. We like go to like a nice a restaurant we like in Liverpool.
Nice as a strong term.
Yeah. Nice for us.
Yeah.
We go to a restaurant in Liverpool sometimes, and like, but what I didn't really get was it wasn't anything that I hadn't eaten before. Like we'd been there before and I'd eaten this meal before, so I was like, oh, it'll be fine. Like I've had this before. I could not walk back to the apartment. Like my back was so sore. My ankles were swollen. My fingers, I'd look like I'd done like a marathon. My fingers were that big, like my wrists. I couldn't put shoes on. I was walking around Liverpool 1 the next morning in George's size 11 sliders. Like, and couldn't put socks on. I could not walk. Like, and we were like in the middle of Liverpool 1 where we were staying, and it was a 5-minute walk. It took us about half an hour to get back to that apartment because I could not walk, like with such a sore stomach. And like I don't know, you're just like, I was like, what is going on? But then I'd wake up in the morning and I was like, oh, I'm ready to go again now. Like I'm ready to eat again now. And this was just my fault. I had a plan in place. I had my reverse diet in place, and I loved, on reflection now, I loved all of the food that was on that diet plan, and I kick myself every single day now because I wish I'd just followed it, because I just didn't want to.
Look, like hindsight is a wonderful thing. This is what I'm trying to explain, is that if you hadn't been through that, you would never have learned it.
Yeah. And I say this because I remember coming back to, like, we'd had a few days and it was what it was. Like,
there's too much food consumed. And
I couldn't take back what I'd done. Like, I didn't. And to some people, when I tell people what I ate, they were like, oh, it's not even that much. But like, and it probably wasn't to your average human, but like when you're coming out of whatever we'd just been through, like it is a lot.
But it's also, I think, again, I don't want to touch on too much stuff, but like, I think people miss the fact, and I know you did if we spoke about it, it's like, not secret eating, but there'd be like 3 or 4, 5, 6 Lindos in before they'd even gone for tea. And it's these little things that I think people don't see, and I think people think that we are robots and we are not human when we absolutely are. I remember we both went for a meal one time, and again, if you want to elaborate, it's like, I think for me, we were in the car driving to somewhere, and it's like, oh, do you want a little bit of cookie? And then before you know it, like, we'd gone through 3 before you turn up at a restaurant full, but you force yourself to eat. And then remember we were in the apartment and we had those donuts. That's when we were on to dinner. I'm pretty sure that's the day we were on.
Bloody donuts.
Yeah, on the way to dinner.
I
don't really like donuts.
Before that night.
I don't like donuts.
I do.
Yeah, so like I remember, we were 40 before and people don't see the psychological effect it can have on people. And this is why I try and get these things across. And people see all the nice stuff, and that's fine. But it's then understanding. A lot of people don't understand what goes in, and again, just getting like real life perspective on the journey, to be honest. And that's the kind of the point of the podcast, of course. But again, like I said, I know we spoke about it. It was like, not that you ever wouldn't tell me, but it's like a few things there, and that I think was more I hate the term issue because nothing's an issue, but over the 3 or 4 days that we were there, it was more the build up of everything in between. Yeah. As a whole. Yeah. And obviously coming back from there, what position did you find yourself after being, the best shape of your life to? You start, in my opinion, obviously being said you look great, but like, how did you feel coming back from that, and where did you?
Yeah, well, yeah, we'd come back, and my ankles were still very much swollen, and like the plan was always like have a few days and chill, and then just check in with my coach when I got back. So I knew full well on the boat back I was going to have to step on the scales in the morning, and the dread I had to step on the scales that next morning was awful. And I stepped on, and yeah, I didn't like what I seen. I obviously took my pictures and I sent them over, and like, yeah, it was what it was. I did say I probably ate a little bit too much over the past few days, and like Meg was great, like she is great, and she was like, this is like fine, like it's fine, do not worry about it, like we're back now, let's just get back on track. But like I don't know what it was, and this is like, I hadn't really ever felt like this before. I just couldn't get myself back into that like routine of like eating my meals and like going to the gym, and I was still going to the gym, I was still training, I was still eating, but like I didn't want to. Like that was the first time in a long time that I just didn't want to do it. And like I was so like unhappy with myself. And obviously you're eating more because you need to eat more. Like being stage lean is really not in a good, it's not maintainable. You cannot maintain that level of condition for that long. So I knew full well I needed to like gain some weight. But seeing your body change, and it does change pretty quickly, seeing your body change that quick is like really, really hard. So yeah, my first reverse, I think those first few days, people say this now, I didn't know this at the time, like your prep doesn't really end like as soon as you step off stage. Like your prep doesn't really end till about 4 to 6 weeks afterwards. My
post show was 8 weeks.
Yeah.
My priming phase was 8 weeks. And the way I did it, I don't know about you, and this may be a good way to look at it, was I'm obsessed with trying to get better. So as we all are, my off season started in 8 weeks. So therefore I needed to prime myself to be in the best possible position to start my off season. So I was under pressure. I'd set a new goal. So I'm not thinking I'm done. I'm deflated. I was thinking, well, I'm under pressure now. Effectively, I'm on stage again in 8 weeks' time, but it's my start of off-season stage. Yeah. That's where I need to be. I'm in front of people, and it was that pressure I put on myself to reevaluate goals. And I think it's very, very easy. And it's funny because you should have a bit of downtime, but I don't work like that. Yeah. I hit a goal, I celebrate it for a second, then we go again. Yeah. So I think it's having that, but obviously allowing yourself a little bit of, maybe I'm wrong, a little bit of downtime, but having that next goal. And like you say, it's that 4 to 8 week window. Prep never really stops. No. It never really stops, but it's more so, especially, not especially for anyone, but it's kind of just regaining your emotions and making sure that you get back on track. And yeah, but for sure, those like first few days, and I sound like I'm being like so melodramatic, but those first 3 days really, really, really did detriment my off season. Like my weight and like my look was just like, well, you'll know, like, you've seen it. Like, it was just like, it was not going the way we wanted it to go at all. And
it really like held me back in my off season. Like, don't get me wrong, the last off season I done, which is the one that we're just talking about now, sorry, so after the reverse, before I've gone into the prep that I'm in now, like, I've really, really happy with the progress I've made, like, in this off season in terms of like my, like, the muscle I've gained and stuff, but like I couldn't really build my food up.
For someone then who has just struggled with food focus, going into the reverse, potentially the first couple of days were not optimal, getting yourself into a position where then you were having to really then consciously restrict food again. How was that mentally, knowing that, you know, you thought the end was in sight, the end's never in sight, but then you're then going to push up? How is it mentally being incredibly food focused to all this point, looking for a sign of relief to then be like, right, okay, because you messed up over a very, very small window, you're unfortunate in terms of how much it impacted your body, that, oh my word, I have to like diet again almost.
Yeah,
you're incredibly restricted for the whole off season.
I had to diet a lot sooner than we wanted to again, like over Christmas it was.
But how did that affect you mentally in terms of, like, it must have been exhausting?
Yeah, it wasn't good. Like, it was good, it was a bit of both really. It was good because like I just wasn't happy, so like for me a little bit of a pullback was like, I need this, like I need to get myself back into a bit of a routine. I need to feel a bit more like myself again. But then secondly, I was like, I just do not feel ready to diet again. Like, the thought of dieting again, and I knew it was going to be a mini cut, and like it was short and it was aggressive. I hate to say this, but like I was pretty like proud of how I approached it, in terms of I was like, I need to get into this mini cut and I need to get out pretty quick, because one, I don't really have time to waste, because my prep started in 3 months, and I was like, I don't really want to diet any longer than I have to.
So for anyone who's in that sort of middle ground where they're unhappy, they can see themselves falling off, but you know, you obviously saw what happened if you persevered and pushed through. Like, what would you give advice to that one person who's sat in that position where they're so tired, exhausted and ready to give up? Is that the time to go? Or for someone who's been in that position where, you know, you obviously, it could have gone either way.
Yeah, I could have not listened and I could have just kept going, but would I have felt any better in myself? No. And I think it all depends on what you want. Like, if you are really, really, really unhappy and you really want to make a change, just get in and get out. Yeah. Like, in the grand scheme of the world, my mini cut was meant to be 8 weeks or 7 weeks, and I only ended up being in it for 4, because I just done absolutely everything I could. I got to sleep on time, I done all my cardio, I ate all my food, and I was in and out. I managed to drop my body back down, I managed to regain my composition, and I was in and out quicker than, like, I don't know what. And
just proof of what can be achieved again. Within my job, I hear a lot of people with false promises. If you want something bad enough, it's just proof that you can do.
You can do it. You just need to. It just, like I said before, comes down to how bad do you want it. Yeah, like, I knew how badly I wanted it, so it's just a matter of just do it.
Getting it done.
Just do it.
Yeah. So anyway, so obviously we've been through that, which is great. There was a lot of
that was quite long-winded. Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. So we hear about highs and lows of a prep, which is natural.
Yeah.
It's a whirlwind of emotion.
Yeah.
And we all go through it, you know. So I want to talk about some nicer things now. So obviously we're into our prep now. First show out the way. So how is this prep compared to last, in terms of the experience that you've built? Again, we talk about lessons learned. We're 5 years in, maybe. Mm-hmm. Every single year is an opportunity to learn. Yeah. And I think people misdrew that. You know, like, I've competed for 7. It's not about me, but like, you know, it's not a one-stop shop. You know, your goals are longer than that. So it's a case of you need to. Sadly, you can't learn once a week. No. You learn once a year with the sport that we do. Yeah. So going into this prep, how have you looked at it differently from a mental aspect?
It's good because, like, I know what to expect. So, like, I remember feeling absolutely awful, like dragging my heels last year at about like 8 weeks out, and I was like, oh my god, I've still got 8 weeks to go. Whereas this time, I've only really been like in the back end, like the digging phase, For about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And like that, I don't know whether that's just because like I know what to expect or what it has been, but like I've definitely like taken a bit of like a better, oh well, like people have been saying to me this year like, oh, how many weeks have you got left? And I was like, oh, 5, 4.5, and they're like, oh, you're still like really happy. I was like, oh, well,
you don't see her at home.
Yeah.
But so then let's talk. We've talked about. Let's go to the point now where what happened. What happened last week? Where are we now? Obviously, we're one show in.
Yeah, so one show in now. So we done the
Race Trick
Rumble last week. Really, really good show. So we done the junior class and a height class. So I got a first in the junior class at that show, and then a fourth in my height class. So happy with that, because I actually didn't realize on my check-in form we have like a goals thing, and I actually was looking back and I did put that I wanted to win a junior show, because I was so close last year. I was second, and then in the bigger qualifier I got third. And so when something's so like grasping distance, I was like, I just gonna put I put it out there, like I do want to win. So everyone goes there, everyone wants to win. Like
you have to have that goal. You have to think big.
Everyone wants to go and everyone wants to win. So
if you turn up for this is my spiel. If you turn up for a show without the mindset that you're gonna win, why turn up?
But you can tell on your face.
Yeah, 100%. It shows on stage.
You can tell. You have to go there and you have to know that you want to win. So it doesn't matter who you see backstage. It doesn't matter who you're standing in the line with, waiting to go on stage. You just have to like know that if you go on to stage and you know that you have done absolutely everything in your power to get to where you have not ate a gram off your plan, you've not missed a minute worth of cardio. I was doing an extra 15 seconds on my cardio because I am that like mental that like, I don't know, I'd missed a step or something, or my watch was on a different time to the actual Stairmaster. I'd done an extra 10 seconds every single time because I was like, I cannot, rightly or wrongly, that may just be me being a bit of a psycho, but like that is just how it works. And I would never be able to, it's like cheating on your diet. There's no guilt that's worse than your own. And I think you taught me that actually. Like there is nobody that can make you ever feel as worse as you feel in yourself if you cheated yourself.
There's nothing you can say to anyone.
Yeah.
Again, from my experience as well, nothing you can say to anyone that's going to make them feel worse than their own guilt.
Yeah, that's the saying.
So for me, like I want to, this is, so obviously everyone's now listened to where we started.
They've heard my whole life story.
Pizza good, that's what we're here for. But forget that. I just want to hear about your last year. But like, when they called you as first place, what does that mean? Considering this last year for you, I don't know, I'm allowed to swear. I don't know. It's been shit in terms of like the highs and lows. We've both been through the highs and lows of it, and we haven't really even gone into too much detail of what is involved.
Yeah.
But we spoke in a bit of detail about obviously the struggles with food, the potential could have stopped at any point, and people do, and that's also understandable. But to then, again, it's just like the perseverance that you did when they said first place, when they called first place. What was going through your mind? What were your emotions? Did you look back at the year? I don't know, explain to me the feeling. I mean, I've done this for 7 years and I haven't come close to first, so Lauren flies in 2 years in and comes away with the first place. I'm retiring, but yeah, just explain to those people who, again, more so like, you are an inspiration, I'm not just saying that, but like, what you say to someone who's looking up to you now, bearing in mind, this has been your story, never would have imagined this from the start, but like just from this last year alone, how did you feel when they called your number to number one?
I was thinking, thank God Ian says your name afterwards, because I was like, is that my number? But no, it's actually like an anticlimax. I was like, oh my God, like thank God, like it just is like the icing on the cake. I really hate that saying, but it is literally like, oh my God, like you just feel amazing, like, and I'm going to contradict myself. It's not all about winning. Like, I would have been happy with second place. I would have been happy with a placing. But, like, that was just, like, insane. Like, I would never have imagined myself getting that. So, to get it was insane. Insane.
Especially off the back of obviously everything that you're kind of been through.
And I also knew going into this show, the plan was always to not bring me in at my best, because we know we're doing some shows afterwards as well. So the plan was always like we went into this show with the regional as just like a formality, like we have to do the regional to do a pro qualifier. So the plan was always to bring me in about 80%. So like I don't know, I was just a bit like, oh God, well, I don't know what I'm going to look like at 100 then if this is what 80 is. Yeah.
So that's giving you some self-belief.
Yeah. But like you've seen, like I don't think anything could have prepared me for this week.
No, of course, yeah. This week's been a bit more difficult. So I think I just want people to share and feel. I've been lucky enough to kind of be on the journey with you, watch what's happened. So if you've got, obviously we've kind of given, hopefully people have seen the insights of real life and the things that people genuinely go through. It's not all Instagram, trust me. If you've got one bit of advice for anyone starting out in your position from day one, where they're going with their Grace Fit band and their guide, what would you give your advice to you and your Grace Fit band 5 years ago?
God, really put me on the spot. It's just do it for you. Like if you can really do whatever you want. Like if you want to go and do it, you can. If you put the work in, and don't do it for the wrong reasons. I think I see a lot of people doing it for the wrong reasons, and it's just not worth it. Like do it for you. Do anything for you. Like don't just do
it for you.
Yeah.
Is the
say it one more time.
So amazing. And again, I appreciate Lauren's a week out from her next show. So in terms of the brain functions, probably I think you've done incredibly well.
Yeah, thank you.
Better than me, who's full of food. So we'll finish off. What is next? What is next immediately? What is next after? Where's Lauren Quirk going in fitness? How's this now going to impact and affect your life going forward?
What in terms of like what?
So we'll start. What's next?
So next show is this time next week actually. Mm-hmm. So we're a week out. At the Arnolds, second Arnolds, and then 2 weeks later we're going to do another show, which I'm not going to say yet. But yeah, so we've got another 2 shows to go. And then the plan is to reverse again. Let's see how that goes. Properly.
Which look we could document for people who want to see.
Yeah. If it goes well.
Potentially.
Don't need to embarrass myself in front of the whole social media.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like that's something to keep me accountable, I guess. But yeah, so that's the plan, reverse out. And then we're actually going to take next year off because I have a career goals as well. I'm doing my accountancy studies at the moment, so I've got like 5 exams left, so I really want to get those boxed off as well. So, and then it'll be nice for you step on stage next year, and then I can support you on that way as well. And then who knows, 2024 maybe? We'll see. I might retire by then. I might be going back to the 1 meal and Chinese's.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, thank you very much. Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. If anyone is thinking of competing and like they don't know where to start or anything, like I know I may not look very approachable, I have been told. But please do just feel free to message me, and yeah, I'm happy to chat it through, chat about it, chat more about my experience with it, and yeah, hopefully go again.
You're a star. So thank you very much. That's it. I think, look, we've wrapped up a great story. And again, the reason I'm trying to bring this, guys, to you is to kind of delve into the reality of things. Like, obviously, we went through my initial journey. Lauren's obviously now second year into a bikini competitor, but it started off much, much sooner than that. And it's just kind of bringing you different stories to kind of, I'm trying to relate to as many people as I possibly can to kind of inspire you, to show you what you all can achieve with the right mindset. So yeah, look, thank you very much all for listening. That's episode 2. Any questions, or like you say, please reach out to Lauren or myself at any point, and we're here to help.